Konnichiwa. I'm Lost Otaku, and this is One Piece Birthdays and Theories. Now, this is not a series that's going to be revolved around theories based off of One Piece characters' birthdays. It's going to be a series where I discuss theories about a particular character whose birthday is on the day that the video is uploaded. Or I might not keep it as just theories. It might just be like discussion videos on something about the different characters. Like, it doesn't even have to be, like I just said, it doesn't necessarily have to be theories. It can be pretty much anything. So with March 2nd coming up, I have decided to start out the series with my personal favorite character, Sanji. Don't mind taping here. I'm trying to finish, hopefully strengthening the edges, because these posters, if you don't put them up with push pins or nails or something, or put them in on in frames and hang them, and you just use normal tape, they tend to fall. I threw those away. Okay. I even had some like poster sticky. It's not tape. It's like rubber, but both sides are sticky. You put it on, that type of deal. I had a little bit of that I tried holding them up with when I first got them, and they all just, well, not that time. When I first got them, like, Zoro fell, Sanji fell, and then I forget who. Anyway, a few of them fell. Could have just been the tape was bad, but if I can reach it. But it could have just been the tape is bad. However, I'm still going to use tape because I really don't want to put holes in these. So I'll just have to make sure I keep tape around to reinforce the tape in case I notice any of them beginning to fall. But Shanks ended up being the last one, which I was glad about that, because I went yesterday, I decided I'm updating his bounty. And with the accurate bounty. So, oops, spoiler alert for anybody who's watching this. This is Shanks' current bounty. Anyway, back to what we're really talking about. I'm gonna stop this right here now that I'm about halfway through, and stick this right there, and work on this later. Oops, don't want it that big. There we go. Don't want it too big, because if I ever decide I want to take it off, and if I ever have to take it off to update it again, I'd like to be able to do that. So I don't want the tape too big, mess up the poster. But yeah, the reason why the last video only had a few of the posters over here was due to the fact that I came up here one day and they were all on the floor. And I'm just now finally got to the last one. But we're setting that aside and getting into the actual video now. And I am going to be reading directly, from the website source, because these are not these aren't my theories. These are other people's theories, who one of them has for the most part been proven true, but some of it's been proven false. So, and the other one I found rather interesting. And while I am sure it's probably 100% wrong, or mostly wrong. There's a little bit that's true because we'll get to that in a while. But I personally really like it. But of course I am a big Sanji fan, so I would think, so it would be really cool. Now, to you Zoro fans out there and other fans that are not Sanji fans, and think that there is no Sanji fan that can admit that Zoro is stronger than Sanji, you are wrong. While I wish I could say Sanji was stronger than Zoro, I can admit that Zoro is in fact stronger than Sanji. Although I wouldn't tell that to Sanji's face because that might make him a bit upset. But anyway, I'm stating that because this one theory that has not yet proven to be true or false at all just might, not just might, it will make Sanji stronger than all of the Straw Hats put together. If it were true, which I highly doubt it. But it's still a fun theory. However, that one's gonna, I'm saving that one for last. Okay, where's the start of this one? Now this first one was from, I'm not sure how long ago. Let's see if I can find a date. I wasn't able to find a date before, but yeah, I don't see any date. So, okay, here's, the comments do have dates though. Let's see if they get any older. No, they're getting newer. Yeah, they're getting newer. Okay, so the oldest comment on it is, yeah, that's what I thought. Is 2015. So this is pretty old. And you will see that it's how old it is when I get reading it. Okay. So this theory is by someone, it's all the way at the bottom, by the name of Gaimon. Theory created by Gaimon. Okay. So yeah, apparently Gaimon is a real person and is wandering around somewhere in whatever country in his treasure chest, but okay, no, I'm kidding. So this theory is titled, I know I've been trying to get there for a while now. This theory is titled 5 Anomalies of Sanji Among the Straw Hats. Now, we all know that Sanji for the longest time was the only one that, or most of us know if, stop. Warning! I already said there was Shanks' bounty spoiler after I showed the bounty. But before I get any farther, this video does contain major spoilers to the current chapters of One Piece. So if there is any new fans that are in, say, the first chapters of One Piece or the first 100 chapters of One Piece, stop watching this video now. We good? Okay, you gone? Okay, cool. We continue. Anomaly number 1. Zoro, as vice captain, has given his comment or approval regarding other Straw Hats, except Sanji. Now, this can probably be argued he acknowledges Sanji in his own way. In much different ways than he did the other Straw Hats. Now, I will continue with what this person is saying. Since Luffy and Zoro, not Zero, since Luffy and Zoro are the first 2 members of the Straw Hats, it seems normal that Zoro will always be there when other Straw Hats are recruited. But in Sanji's case, Zoro was following Nami, trying to get Nami back with Usopp and Yozaku and Johnny. I have one slight thing about that, and that's when Sanji was officially recruited, yes, he wasn't there, but he knew Luffy wanted Sanji. Because when they left after Zoro was defeated by Mihawk, no, he did not defeat Mihawk yet. He knew Luffy wanted Sanji as their cook. And Usopp, throwing Luffy's hat back, had said, "We'll go get Nami, you just get that cook to join our crew." Now, granted, that was Usopp showing his approval, and Zoro was severely injured and weakened at the moment and wasn't able to say anything, but he was kind of there when Luffy decided Sanji was joining the crew. So, whether or not you want to consider him not actually officially giving his approval or not, that can be argued one way or the other. And either one could be right. And either one could be wrong. So, the next anomaly is every Straw Hat has their... This is where you're going to know this is where you're going to see how old this is, other than the fact that the comments are 2015. Every Straw Hat has their picture seen by the world government, except Sanji. I'm talking about their wanted posters. As you can see, as we all know, he now has his own picture seen by the world. So, better picture than before, but still not the best. So, he's still getting his bad luck with his posters. But still, it's actually him. Then, number 3. We know that every Straw Hat has lost somebody important in their life. Except Sanji. Now, we all know now that Sanji lost his mother. Sora. Sanji was very close to Sora when he was younger, before he left Germa. And that, I believe, played a big part of him leaving Germa, because she was gone. There was no reason for him to stay. When she was there was plenty of reason. There was a bit of reason to stay. I mean, you could also argue that, well, Reiju was still there. He liked Reiju. But I'll get to that later. Then it goes on to list, Luffy lost Sabo. He's now returned. It states that he has now returned. And Ace. So this is obviously after Dressrosa. Zoro lost Kuina. Usopp, Robin, and Nami lost their mothers. Nami lost her biological parents, both her mother and her father. Although she was so young she didn't know them. She don't have any memories of them, but she also lost Bellamere, her foster mother. Frankie lost Tom, the man that raised him, the fishman that raised him. Brook lost his captain, his entire crew, and in a way, Laboon. He didn't completely lose Laboon, but considering the fact that we all know Laboon's still alive, but it's been so long since he's seen Laboon that he did practically lose him. He can get him back, but that would consist going around the Grand Line, the rest of the way around the Grand Line. So, Chopper lost Dr. Hiriluk. In fact, in his flashback, instead of losing somebody, Sanji actually gained a new friend being Zeph. Now, that I would have to say, yes, he gained a new friend, but he also blames himself for said new friend losing practically everything. His power, his leg, which is part of his power, his dream, and in a way, his entire crew. Because if Zeph wasn't saving Sanji, didn't have to save Sanji, if Zeph didn't feel he had to save Sanji, then he would have remained on the ship and they could have gotten away, might have survived by trying to get away from the storm. Whether or not he actually would have is another story. As bad as the storm was, they might not have, but if they were still moving, there would have been a slight chance of his entire crew surviving. So in a way, Sanji probably partially blames himself for Zeph losing all of his friends. Number 4. Every Straw Hat has once left the crew or fought a member of the crew, except Sanji. Of course, again, this was 2015, and let's see, I think Whole Cake Island was about in the middle of it when I started reading the manga. Because like I've said before, what I did with the manga was I got caught up with the anime and then I read the manga. However, for One Piece, I did that a little differently, where I found out Sanji's secret by looking up what was so mysterious about his left eye, because I had only watched the English version, which has the English dubbed, Funimation dubbed, not the 4Kids dubbed. I am now watching the 4Kids dubbed for reaction videos. Just if you want any details on that, just go watch my reaction video, which I'll put the link to that at the end of the video. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So yeah, this was obviously this happened obviously between Dressrosa and Whole Cake Island, or Totland arc, whichever you want to call it. So he had not met up with Luffy yet, or in Whole Cake Island, obviously. Now, you might be thinking, everyone left the crew once, or fought with a number, like, what? Yes, Zoro, back at Whiskey Peak, Zoro was going to get killed by Luffy. Luffy was so angry with him for beating up all the Baroque, I can't pronounce it now. I was doing just fine earlier when I was okay. My reviews aren't caught up with the manga, but I'm at like chapter 200. Let's see, 205. No, don't add a new tab. Go away. Go there. So back at Whiskey Peak, Luffy was angry with Zoro for taking out all the Crocodiles organization. We're just going with that because I can't pronounce it right now. Baroque Works. Yeah, there we go. And he was literally going to kill Zoro. And then Nami and Robin temporarily left the crew. Some people argue whether or not Nami was actually on the crew when she left the crew. Some people don't consider her a member didn't consider her the third member after they found out about her actually being a part of Arlong's crew. However, she was. To Luffy she was, and if to Luffy she is, then she is. Robin, obviously, with back in Water 7, she had left and was helping out CP9 to try to get the blueprints from the blueprints to Pluton from Iceberg, who they thought had them, but in reality he gave them to Frankie. Usopp and Frankie both fought Luffy. Now, Frankie's fight, I don't recall any fights after he joined the crew, but before he joined the crew, actually, technically Frankie fought with all the, Frankie's family did. Frankie's family fought with Luffy, no, not Luffy. Sanji, Zoro, and didn't someone else go with? Yeah, Luffy went with them. Is that right? Yeah, Luffy was with them when they took. But yeah, Luffy and Frankie did fight because Frankie was their enemy at first because his family stole their money. They stole 200 million berries from them to get the Atom Wood to build the Sunny. And so so they became enemies that way, and that was partially what brought on the Usopp leaving and fighting Luffy. I mean, the main reason was Luffy decided they were getting a new ship, obviously, but another part of the reason was Usopp thought it was just because they didn't have enough money to get it fixed. And then Chopper, I always forget about this because it was for such a short amount of time that it wasn't really significant, Chopper was forced to leave the crew because of Foxy when they lost in the Davy back fight, the one round of the Davy back fight. Foxy chose Chopper to join his crew. So that's when Chopper left. So if you ever see that video of the Memories video where it's the full-length Japanese version and it's showing each member joining the order of which each member joined and left the crew. And every time I watch that, I'm like, why did they like glitch that or something? Because Chopper leaves disappears right there. I don't recall Chopper ever actually leaving the crew because, in my opinion, he wasn't actually not a member of the crew. He was just temporarily having to play along and not be in the crew because of the stupid Davy back fight that we're just going to end this conversation now because that arc was worst arc ever. But probably a necessary arc too. Oda doesn't just throw things in there to throw them in there. Practically everything in One Piece is there for a reason. If we don't have it, then One Piece wouldn't take the route that it's taken now, if that makes sense. So, and then Brook. You're probably wondering what this is talking about. Where they're getting the idea that Brook fought someone in the crew. Well, technically speaking, Brook himself did not fight anyone. Brook's shadow did. Zoro fought Ryuma's corpse, who was reanimated by Brook's shadow, which is where they're going with the Brook fought Zoro. So it really wasn't Brook, and then, but it was still a part of Brook. And then there's Luffy. Now, obviously, there's the Luffy versus Zoro, but the thing they've got here is Luffy versus Luffy, which I need a refresher on, because I seen the chapter in there. I should have refreshed my memory on this beforehand, but I didn't think about it. Oh yeah, okay. I see, okay, yeah. Luffy versus Luffy, aka Luffy versus his shadow. But yeah, versus, no, not Kaido, versus Luffy. Because they had the Nightmare Luffy, that was when the Nightmare Luffy... there was the Nightmare Luffy, but Nightmare Luffy fought... There we go, Nightmare Luffy. Let's see. Yeah, it was Orzen Moria versus Nightmare Luffy. Okay, yeah. So yeah, that still applies. The Luffy versus Luffy was the chapter-wise, I believe. Let me double check that. They got the chapter number written on here, I think. Yeah, chapter 478. So that would have been about when Brook came in. So yeah, it was the Oars one. And now the so Brook, his shadow, not Brook himself, but a part of Brook, fought Zoro, and that's what they're getting at there. The next is Luffy fought himself. Chapter 478, which is during Thriller Bark, the chapter title being Luffy versus Luffy. And that was Nightmare Luffy versus Orzen Moria. And then obviously, since they're saying that, since the anomaly is the Straw Hats fought, all of the Straw Hats fought each other, one of the other members at some point, now you, except for Sanji, now you can argue that he fights Zoro every day. But that's more of a brotherly fight, a fight amongst siblings. So, and this is referring to as a literal, I'm going to kill you fight. So, that's why they don't include that here, obviously. Why they did Luffy fought himself, which in a way he did, he fought Oars, which had his shadow. However, they could have stuck with the Luffy fought Zoro, like they did with Zoro fought Luffy, or Zoro was going to be killed by Luffy. But now, on to number 5. This is the last one. Every Straw Hat has a devil fruit or weapon except Sanji. Luffy, Robin, Chopper, and Brook, they have their devil fruits. Zoro has his katanas. Nami has her climb attacks. Usopp has his kabuto, his slingshot. Frankie is a literal weapon himself. But not only does Sanji not use weapons, every once in a while we'll see him use a weapon. There's been a few movies which isn't canon, where he'd have a gun. He actually pointed one at Robin once when they first met her.
and she appeared on their ship back when Vivi was with the first day Vivi was with them. She appeared on their ship. Sanji did point a gun at her, but he didn't use it. And knowing Sanji, he wasn't planning on using it at all. It was more of a you're with the enemy, so don't mess with my crew or Vivi, and I won't have to use this. And even if he was thinking that, we all know he wouldn't have used it. Now you might be thinking, well, he did kick Big Mom once, but that was explained in an SBS that he didn't actually kick her. He was blocking her attack, thus to protect her friends, but to block a punch from Big Mom, you have to kick her hand to negate her punch, or Sanji has to. So he wasn't actually breaking his own rules. He was protecting his friends, his Luffy and Reiju. So his friend, captain, and sister. So not only does he not have weapons or a devil fruit, but he also restricts himself of only using his feet. So now, on to their actual theory and their reasoning for pointing these out. Now, mind you, a lot of this is not necessarily proven right. Some of it's proven kind of right, some of it's proven kind of wrong. Parts of it are proven both right and a combination of both. But this is just for fun discussion. So, in the future, there will be a big incident that removes those anomalies. In other words, Oda has prepared an amazing story to make Sanji's character follow the pattern. Let's talk about the pattern one by one. 1. Sanji will temporarily leave the crew, and here Zoro again will give amazing advice or speech about it. And when Sanji comes back, Zoro will give his proper approval. But what could be the reason for Sanji leaving the crew? Okay. Now, we already know the reason, so let's discuss that. Reason, we find out Sanji is the third-born prince of the Germa Kingdom in the North Blue. Now, we find out fairly early on, that Sanji is a prince. It was not long after Robin joined. No. That he is from the North Blue, not a prince. We find that out way later that he is a prince, although I found that early on. Back when Vivi was still with them. Anyway, okay, reason, we find out Sanji is the third-born prince of the Germa Kingdom in the North Blue. His so-called father arranges Sanji's marriage to the Yonko Big Mom's daughter, Pudding, and we all know how that turned out, so don't need to go on any more details with that. So, that said, that one, number one, isn't entirely proven right yet. Zoro hasn't given his approval or anything. If he has, unless you want to argue that he has in his own way from the very beginning. Number two, Sanji will get his proper photograph for his bounty poster, and that is when his parents will recognize the existence of their long-lost child, and will try to ask Sanji to come back. But who are Sanji's parents? This one, once again, partially right. However, Germa already had their suspicions that Blackleg Sanji was in fact their long-lost prince. Germa being more specifically Judge, Ichiji, Niji, Yonji, and Reiju. However, because they didn't have a proper picture, they couldn't confirm it. But once they got that picture, they then showed it to Judge, who was able to confirm that it was in fact Prince Smoke Sanji of the Germa Kingdom. thus having his poster changed from wanted dead or alive to alive only, and raised to 177 million berries, which 177 plays a significant role, and we're going to get to that in the next theory. This then led Sanji to be forced with threats against the people he cared about, its lives, being his crew and Zeph, and even the Baratier, and we all know that, Peckham's. We all know that Peckham's. Why I could not remember that, I have no idea. Also stated that another group of people that the Vinsmokes and Big Mom would have threatened was the Kumabaka Kingdom. So that could... We know for a fact that Big Mom threatened... The Big Mom pirates threatened Luffy, Nami, Chopper, and Brook, as well as Pedro and Carrot. And we know for a fact that at least Judge threatened Zeph's life. And if they're threatening Zeph's life, that would consist of going to the Baratier, thus being near the Baratier that if they needed to, could destroy it. Or wanted to, not needed to, but wanted to, they could have destroyed it. Thus probably killing everyone on there if they didn't get everyone off, and then be like, okay, first we're going to start out with the restaurant, and then we're going to start killing off its employees. So 2, I'll reread it. 2 was Sanji will get his proper photograph for his bounty poster, and that is when his parents will recognize the existence of their long-lost child and will try to ask Sanji to come back. But who are his parents? So that was just, instead of politely asking him, will you come back? Will you come home to us? They tried to force him into a marriage without even letting him know that they knew he was alive or anything. Or caring about what he wanted. Okay, so number 3. Or maybe Sanji actually lost one of his parents, or his brother, or his sister. Then for some reason he decided to run away or to take revenge by sneaking to orbit. No, not sneaking to orbit around meaning outer space, but sneaking to orbit, the name of the ship that he escaped to, that he was on for 2 years before meeting Zeph. That I have this broken down, so I'm going to continue on with 3 after I state this. This part of 3 was obviously proven right, partially right. He did lose his mom due to the fact that she basically did sacrifice herself in an attempt to save her 4 sons from an emotionless life. Now, I would like to state that, I'm going to bring this up again later, but I would like to state that Reiju, in her Viver card, she was in fact, her enhancements were the exact same, except for her actual power itself, which is poison, were the exact same as her brother. So she's got the exoskeleton, she's got the unique power, poison, electricity, light, which Ichiji is light, not explosions like some actually thought. For those of you who don't read the Viver cards or watch videos about the Viver cards on YouTube. So Ichiji's light, Reiju's poison, Niji, obviously electricity. Yonji is a combination of physical strength and kind of like what Frankie can do when he does his punch, and his hand detaches from his arm and is connected to Frankie's is connected to a chain. Yonji's is not necessarily a chain. It's
I'm not quite sure exactly what it is, but it's, yeah. Just go watch or read the chapters or watch the episodes where they're helping the Straw Hats fight Big Mom. You'll see what I'm talking about. Actually, I can put a picture here or wherever. If I can find one, actually. I'll do that later. And then part 2 of 3, that was also proven right, was for some reason he decided to run away or to take revenge by sneaking off to orbit. It wasn't sneaking. Obviously, he wasn't trying to get revenge by leaving. He was actually running away. And then the for some reason part was due to every member of his family, apart from his mother and his late mother and sister Reiju, being highly physically, mentally, emotionally, and verbally abusive. Every abuse except one. Not only was he physically, verbally, emotionally, and mentally abused, but he was also imprisoned and forced to hide his face, despite the fact that Judge never once came down to the prison to see him. As far as anybody knows. I mean, I'm sure the case was if he decided to go down, or maybe if he got older and he would still wanted Sanji in prison when he was older, even in his teens, before he decided to run away. It could have been due to the fact that maybe if people were to wander down to the dungeons, that by then he'd be old enough that people wouldn't recognize him, or if they did, his face would be covered up by the iron mask that he was forced to wear. That could have been the case, but I see it more as if Judge were to have to go down to the dungeon for some reason, he wouldn't have to see Sanji's face. He'd have to see him, but he wouldn't see his face. So that's how I view that anyway. Otherwise, what's the point of the stupid thing? So finally tired of the abuse, he basically asks Reiju, I mean, he didn't really ask her, he just stated, if I leave here now in the East Blue, will I ever have to see Dad's face again? To which Reiju started crying and then bent the bars. So he never actually asked her if she would help him leave. She just chose to help him leave. Then once they were out of the castle, she directed him to a ship, the ship being Orbit, for him to run away on, because that was the only ship that wasn't going to be attacked due to the fact that it was just a passenger ship. What could they do? They weren't the enemy, they weren't the target, so they just left them. Okay, part C of 3. We have seen many times Sanji sneaking off to follow his instincts. For example, Sanji snuck off to Maxim to rescue Nami. Or rather, him and Usopp, which Maxim is Inaru's ship, the flying ship. However, this is kind of misworded. He didn't sneak off to rescue her. He went with Usopp, because Usopp was the only way they were able to get up there in the first place, because it was already in the air. Because the inventions Usopp came up with was used to help them climb up and reach the Ark. But when they got up there, they split up to find Nami, and Usopp was the first one there. Sanji, however, was off in more of the engine room, where he figured out how the ship ran, how it worked, and he destroyed the stuff inside. And then he came up to rescue Nami and Usopp. So he didn't really sneak off. They split up. Him and Usopp split up to find her faster. And Usopp got there first because Sanji got sidetracked with destroying basically the engine of the ship. Obviously, he didn't destroy it to the point that it didn't work. but he destroyed it to the point that Inaru was not happy with him at all. He also sneaked off to the Puffing Tom when to rescue to rescue Robin from CP9, where he had to once again rescue two other members of the crew, Frankie not being a member yet, but soon to be member, Frankie and Usopp. Another person in Maxim that he rescued was obviously Usopp, because Usopp arrived there first, and Nami was trying to get away on the waiver, missed Usopp's hand to grab him, so Sanji runs in, kicks Usopp to Nami, and helps them to escape, taking the hit from Inaru, taking Inaru's lightning. But on the Puffing Tom, he ran into Frankie and Usopp, who got captured, and tried to rescue Robin, but we know where that went. He ended up having to fight the really disgusting spaghetti guy, which is one of my favorite fights of Sanji's, because we actually get to see him use weapons and actually show us that if he wanted to, he could use twin swords. Well, not necessarily twin, but two-sword style anyway, if he actually wanted to. He knows how to do it. Which back then would have led one to wonder, where did he learn to do that? Zeph would never have taught him that. Zeph would never have allowed him to even teach himself how to use swords. So, which we now learn that he learned that back at Germa, as some of their training, him and his siblings' trainings. Sanji was also, okay, we already read that, never mind, that was the Puffing Tom one. Maybe at the moment, while the Thousand Sunny is heading to Zou, Sanji is going to sneak off to Big Mom's ship. He didn't sneak off to the ship on the way there, but when he was at Zou, obviously he ran into Bej and Peckham's, or they came for Caesar, but then, by the time they got to Zou, they weren't just after Caesar, they were after Sanji as well. But he did follow his instincts and snuck off, in the sense that he threw Nami, Chopper, and Brook out of Bej's castle and left with Bej of his own accord. Well, forcefully, it was by force, but it was also by choice. It was a combination of both. It was to protect his friend. He didn't want to, but he had to protect his friends. The theory then goes on to state, maybe in the future, the Straw Hats will encounter orbits. And that is when the Straw Hats learn Sanji's true identity. But what is his true identity? This turned out to be false, because when they were writing this, they apparently didn't remember the fact, which they're human, I'm human, we're all human, we forget stuff, it's fine. In the East Blue Saga, the Baratier arc, during Sanji and Zeph's flashback, it was stated that both Zeph's ship and Orbit was wrecked in the storm. However, while sitting on the rock and looking at the food, dividing it up, when he was dividing it up amongst however many days it was, I think 20, Sanji mentioned that he didn't see any wreckage from Orbit. He didn't see, none of the wreckage looked like it was Orbit, so, but that doesn't mean anything. Orbit could have actually gone down while Zeph's ship remained afloat, or it was just such a big pile of mess that you could barely tell which ship what parts went to which ship. But even if somehow Orbit would have survived, there is no way whatsoever they would have gone to the Grand Line. Why? It's a passenger ship in the East Blue. East Blue is considered to be the weakest ocean, so why would a passenger ship from the East Blue go to the Grand Line? Not to mention, they are in the New World right now. The first half of the Grand Line was Paradise. The second half is the New World, which is 100 times more dangerous than Paradise was, which is why it's called Paradise. So even though it was basically a glimpse of a living hell, it was paradise compared to what the New World is. Because the Straw Hats are in the New World, even if Orbit would for have some reason sailed to the Grand Line if they did survive the storm, there's no way they would leave Paradise and go to the New World with passengers. I mean, it could have been taken over by pirates, and that would be the reason why Orbit would go to the Grand Line if it did survive the storm. But it's highly unlikely it survived the storm, and confirmed, stated in One Piece itself that Orbit didn't survive. Not to mention, Sanji was a 10-year-old kid, so he very could have easily just been like a wishful thinking that he wasn't, like, not admitting to himself that he didn't see the ship. I mean, if you were in that situation and there was 2 ships that wrecked, wouldn't you hope for the best and just possibly turn a blind eye to the evidence in front of you? There's a lot of people who do that. A lot of people with different illnesses, like specifically mental illnesses, will turn a blind eye to the fact that they have it, while the people around them would be like, there is something wrong. So now we move on to number 4. Not only will he leave the crew, Sanji will have his proper fight with Zoro. I'm gonna stop right there. We all know the proper fight with Zoro hasn't happened yet. They could still get into a bit of an argument after they defeat Kaido and Orochi about the fact that he left, which I'm still hoping for, because some people might argue the fact that the situation was a bit different than Usopp's. I personally would argue that fact, but it would kind of still be sort of nice to see, because I feel like that would put some sort of a development on their Zoro and Sanji's relationship, and not necessarily in a bad way either. What I kind of envision happening is, after the fight with Kaido and Orochi is done, the crew could be sitting there talking and catching up. Nami, Usopp, Sanji, and Chopper. I'm sorry, Nami, Usopp, Chopper, and Luffy, not necessarily Sanji. Sanji could be in the mix. He could be sitting there, but he could also be off elsewhere doing who knows what. Probably at a bathhouse. More than likely, knowing Sanji, that would be where he's at. Or he could be off cooking or something, or getting supplies or something. So what I envision happening is Nami, Luffy, Brook, Chopper, and possibly even Carrot. And if Jinbei shows up, because Luffy finally says something about Jinbei, so if Jinbei ever shows up and is actually Jinbei, then they could all be sitting there around a table or something, discussing, filling in Zoro, Robin, Frankie, and Brook on what happened at Whole Cake Island. And once someone brings up the fight between Luffy and Sanji, that could kind of trigger Zoro a little bit, like, wait, he did what? And then one of the others could be like, he was trying to protect us. He thought he was protecting us by doing what he did. That's the only reason why he did everything he did when he threw us out of Beja's castle, when he attacked Luffy, when he said all the things he said. But Zoro could be like, I don't care. He still beat up our captain. He still stomped all over our captain. We weren't letting Usopp come back after doing that, so why should we just let him come back? And then this would be about when Sanji would come up, or if he could even already be sitting there cooking, or he could just like freeze because he might not get along with Zoro, but he still cares about Zoro and he wants Zoro's approval. He wants all of his friends' approval. So just hearing him say that would just like cause him to like freeze up for a couple seconds and then just be like, I didn't see how I had any other choice. You guys and Zeph and obviously the people in orbits, are the first people since my mom died that ever truly cared about me. You're the first people, including Zeph, that I ever truly cared about. And the thought of doing something that would cause them to want to kill you and actually doing so, because I know what Germa is capable of. I've lived there. I was born there. So, knowing the stuff I know, I didn't feel I had any other choice. So, do you honestly believe what you just said? And to be honest, Zoro, a part of me thought the same thing. There is no way I could ever go back to the crew after what I did. But also, if I didn't go back, if I didn't belong with the crew, where would I belong? My family hates me. I am a prince in a country that doesn't actually want me. They don't need me. I have no reason, they have no use for me. Now, you might be thinking, if he did get kicked out of the crew, if he were kicked out of the crew, he could always go back to the Baratie. But even after doing that, after doing what he did not feel like he could face the crew. So if he didn't feel like he could face his crew, who's to say he didn't feel like he couldn't face Seth? Because he even told Judge that if he hadn't done this, he would never be able to look his real father in the eyes the next time he's seen him. Thus, he wouldn't have felt like he even belonged at the Baratie. And of course, we know Sanji said himself after getting punched in the face by Luffy that the reason he couldn't leave with them was he couldn't get up the courage to just leave and let his family die. Even though he hated them, even though he had no obligations towards them, he still couldn't leave knowing they were going to die. And that was what he was saying, that if he that he wouldn't be able to have been able to look Zeph in the eye ever again. If he were to hold a grudge, let his grudge against his family prevent him from saving them. It would have been like letting Zeph down, kind of. Now, okay, back to the theory. The last part of the theory. Finished reading 4. Okay, so first we said not only will he leave the crew, Sanji will have his proper fight with Zoro. We already established that fight was actually with Luffy. So that was partially true. They just got the person wrong so far. He might still get a confrontation with Zoro after defeating Kaido, and I hope that happens. Rather it does, if it doesn't, then okay. But if it does, I don't know, I just feel like something good could come out of that sort of confrontation with Sanji and Zoro, with their relationship, their brotherly relationship. maybe they'd be a little less hostile toward each other. Yeah, I doubt that. But anyway, so many people has been talking about Sanji being actually a prince of some kingdom, since Oda has foreshadowed it by... Okay, I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to get a drink. Okay, where was I? So many people has been talking about Sanji actually being a prince of some kingdom, since Oda has foreshadowed it by giving him the alias as Mr. Prince, not to mention, also, Zoro has actually mentioned that Sanji looked like a prince, but before that, when he was given the alias Mr. Prince, when Sanji gave himself the alias of Mr. Prince, he had also mentioned multiple times that he had made the statements to Usopp, "Don't give Nami weapons. She has me to protect her. Just call me Prince." Or he's also made statements about being Prince Charming, Nami and Vivi's Prince Charming, and even after Alabasta, he's made comments and stuff like the imagining being Robin's knight in shiny armor, or when he snuck off to the Puffing Tom to try to save her, and knight in shiny armor that goes along with Prince, because typically knights were seen as noblemen. They were of noble family. Of course, this isn't necessarily always the case, I'm sure, but for the most part, they were of noble family. Also, if you want to throw this in there, which they threw this in there because they did actually have the page where in One Piece where Zoro said that Sanji looked like a prince. It was obviously during the Davy Back fight, when Zoro and Sanji were sitting there arguing over who was going to be the ball, and Nami is just like, "Sanji, you look awesome with that hat." So Sanji's like I was saying, there is no better man to be the ball in our group. Zoro replies, "Yup, you look like a prince. You look like the prince of idiots." Which that's just one translation. Another translation could be of morons, which I believe was the English translation and the Funimation dubs. Now, you could also throw this in there to be a foreshadow of that somehow. The ball that Sanji had to wear when being the ball in the game slightly resembles the hat of the zombie that Sanji's shadow was in. So I guess this Gaimon is saying that the hat itself kind of looks like a crown as well. So I guess you could spin it that way. So, on to theory number 5. For his ability, there are 2 possibilities of what could happen here. The first one is Sanji might get a Devil Fruit ability. Unlikely. Which we already know wasn't true, but who knows, it could still happen, but I highly doubt it. If he did, it would Oda has stated that if Sanji ever got his hands on the Door Fruit, it would be the end of all privacy. It would be the end of privacy for all women. But he didn't state this, as far as I know. Sanji plus raid suits, Stealth Black's raid suits, plus the Door Fruit. That would be the end of privacy for all women, because they would never know he's there unless they had observation hockey. I can imagine Luffy just randomly bringing up the fact that, like, Sanji could be sitting there goofing off trying to, like, scare Usopp. Usopp does something that takes Sanji off, so he uses his invisibility suit to get revenge on Usopp. Yes, this is how this is going to work. No, I'm kidding. This is just one story that this could happen in. Okay, Usopp does something, say, throws a bunch of toy bugs all over the kitchen floor. And Sanji walks in the morning and, like, runs out screaming his head off and wakes everyone up. Thus, having Zoro find out that Sanji is terrified of bugs, because we all know that's canon. It's only been brought up once, which was back at Jaya when they had to find that South Bird, and the entire forest was infested with giant bugs. And Usopp was playing with the spider, so... Funny story, the only thing Sanji cannot protect a girl from is bugs. Anybody else ever noticed that? Okay. Where was I? Yes. So, Usopp could do something stupid like that, and then once Sanji wakes everyone up, Usopp would be like, oh, it was just a little prank, they're all fake. See? They're fake. Thus, ticks Sanji off, and also gets Zoro rubbing in Sanji's face that he's terrified of something as simple as bugs. Can you blame Sanji? I mean, come on. There's deadly poisonous bugs. There's literally bloodthirsty bugs. Need I go on? But there's also, like, venomous animals and plants and stuff. But there's a lot of people afraid of bugs. It's a common thing, and everyone's got something they're afraid of. Sanji's thing just so happens to be bugs. And we all seen also Ichiji and Niji, because we all seen what happened when they came in. He was practically hugging himself trying to keep it together because he was shaking so bad, like, I really don't want to be in this situation right now. Can someone please come get me out of here? Can something please happen that I could get out of here? So then after that, Sanji could use his raid suit, not thinking about Usopp having observation haki. Actually, Sanji might not know Usopp has observation haki because he wasn't at Dressrosa at the time Usopp awakened his observation haki. He was at Zou, then on Big Mom's ship, and then on Whole Cake Island. Now, granted, Luffy did catch them up on, like, Sabo and stuff, the existence of his third brother, because up until Dressrosa, none of the crew knew about Sabo. They all knew about Ace from Alabasta, but they didn't know about Sabo. But that doesn't necessarily mean Luffy told them that Usopp got observation haki, because nobody commented on it. Sanji commented on the fact that, okay, you got a brother who is the son of the king of the pirates, a brother who is the son of the leader of the revolutionary army, and a brother who is the number 2 of the revolutionary army. That's quite a group of brothers. Quite a powerful group of brothers there. Okay, powerful wasn't the word he used, but whatever. I'm going with it. Because it is true. But he never once said, oh, Usopp awakened observation haki. That's good. That's going to be useful. That's cool. I mean, Sanji acts like an idiot sometimes, but he's pretty intelligent. I mean, he goes off, follows his instincts all the time, and so the fact that Sanji didn't actually say anything about Usopp's observation haki, or Nami, Brook, and Chopper didn't, and even Carrot didn't say anything about it, one can assume that Luffy never said anything. Luffy, we know Usopp knows, but does Luffy know? Was Luffy there when he used it? I don't remember. I'll have to check that out later. Look that up later. But I don't think Luffy was there when he used it. I know the first time when he first awakened it, he wasn't there. Robin was. But nobody remembered Robin because Robin was a toy. Was turned into that doll. As I was saying, I know I jump around too much. This is what happens when you start talking about stuff that isn't in a script. Or in bullet points or something. So what happened would be, like I said, Usopp could throw a bunch of bugs or something, all toy bugs, all over the kitchen floor. Thus, Sanji goes into the kitchen to make breakfast the next day. I'm assuming Sanji is almost always the first one up because he's got to make breakfast. So Sanji is probably normally the first one up, except maybe Robin. So he'd come running out of the kitchen, much in a similar way of what he did when we first found out he was terrified of bugs and insects and arachnids and any creepy crawly like that, so to speak, and thus waking everyone on the ship up. So as revenge, he could, not knowing about Usopp's observation hockey, he could use his raid suit to try to pull a prank on Usopp. Whether or not he'd use it for something like that, who knows? I mean, if he uses it, which we know he has, and we know he will again, use it to peek on girls. Who's to say that he wouldn't use it to try to get revenge on some prank that Usopp or someone did? In fact, Frankie could be even involved in the prank, or Chopper, Luffy even. Like, let's get revenge for all the times Sanji beat us up for stealing food. Or all the mouse traps that Sanji set in the kitchen of the Going Merry to prevent Luffy from sneaking food in the middle of the night. So, one way this could work is Sanji uses it to try to scare Usopp or whoever decided to prank him, or whatever reason he's using this for. This is just one scenario. He gets pranked by one or half the crew, puts on the raid suit, tries to scare them, not thinking, oh, observation hockey. Someone's gonna say, hey, Sanji, what are you doing over there? Why are you invisible over there? It's not really invisibility, it's basically chameleon. The word I decided to come up with for it was chameleonization, because it's not really, obviously that's made up, and it's just an object or thing that has the ability to blend into things like a chameleon, or some forms of frogs. So, in Sanji's case, it would be his raid suit. And so, somebody with observation hockey would be like, Sanji, why are you chameleonized? Why are you using your suit? What is happening right now? That gives you a good reason to be using your suit and be standing over there invisible or chameleonized. Just why? To which Sanji would be like, well, until you said I was standing there, Zoro, or if it was Usopp, be like, okay, so if it would be Zoro that would say something, it would be like, well, until you said I was standing here, I was trying to get Usopp back for the fact that he threw fake bugs all over my kitchen floor. Or if it was Usopp using his observation hockey, he would be like, Sanji, what are you doing? Just basically the same thing. What are you doing? And then Sanji would just reply with something like, am I not invisible right now? How do you know I'm here? And then that's when he would find out about Usopp's observation hockey. Then Luffy could casually be like, too bad you can't do what Rayleigh does and suppress and hide your presence from others. What do you mean, Luffy, hide my presence? What are you talking about? Oh, Rayleigh, he can do this thing where he hides his presence. When he did it when he was training me how to use observation hockey. He blindfolded me and was hiding his presence, but I couldn't sense that he was there, but I could feel him smiling. But if you could learn to do that, and of course, the reason I said Luffy could bring this up is obviously he's the only one that would know about that, so he'd be the only one that would make sense to bring it up. before I got distracted with the Sanji plus raid suit plus Door fruit, which I know Door fruit is the English name for it. Like I said, I am still getting caught up with the older chapters of One Piece. Thus, I still don't know all the side stories. I'm only on chapter 205. I am trying to figure out how to... I'm trying to teach myself how to not be so particular about all the information and stuff, because that was always my biggest weakness in school. I could not write notes for the life of me. My own notes. If the teacher had like the notes up on the projector and had us write out the notes from there, I could do it just fine. Obviously, because the notes are already there. But if they said, go write your own notes, it'd be like, but isn't this all important? How do I pick out the important stuff if it's all important? So that's why my videos are so long, because I physically or mentally or whatever you want to call it cannot pick out the important stuff and make it short. Do it in a short amount of time. It has to be done the longer way. So I'm trying to teach myself how to do that and pick out the important stuff that should be talked about, rather than going on and doing the entire thing, which, if you watch my first video, my first review video, which currently is the only one I'm trying, tomorrow I'm hoping to go I'm going to come up and film that one and get that one edited and up. And tomorrow is going to be, let's see, it's January 25th. There's only, so March 1st. So that one's I'm going to do that one tomorrow. This one, if I'm not editing this one, I might have to wait until after March 2nd when I'm uploading this one, or during March 2nd while this one is up. Oh, no, that couldn't work. Because this one will be uploading, and uploading takes a while, and I upload it through the program I use for editing. So yeah, that won't work. Anyway, as I was saying, back to this. For his ability, there are two possibilities, which I already explained. The first one is Sanji might get a devil fruit ability, which enhances his kicking ability. We all know this didn't happen, but they gave two devil fruits that he could possibly gain. Bellamy's devil fruit. Bellamy being the guy that had the spring fruit where he could turn any part of his body into springs. This person thinks Sanji could have, if he didn't get his raid suit, thinks Sanji could have gained that fruit, but Bellamy's still alive, we all know that. And this is after Dressrosa, so they should know that Bellamy is still alive. And, I mean, something could have happened between them and Whole Cake Island, but didn't. But, I mean, I don't think any of us wants to see Sanji get that fruit. I don't, but is there anybody else that wants to see Sanji get that fruit? I mean, Oda, if somehow you stumbled across this small-time YouTuber's channel and are currently watching this video, please, whatever you do, don't ever give Sanji Bellamy's fruit. I will probably drop One Piece. No, I couldn't. I couldn't do that, but I would get really irritated if Oda did that. I'm pretty sure he's never going to go that route. If he does, fine. But I'm pretty sure he won't go that route. I really hope he don't. Or the second fruit, his dream fruit. Absalon's fruit. The clear fruit. I don't remember the Japanese name for it, which is the actual name. But, so we're going with the clear fruit for now. which that is currently a member of the Blackbeard's Pirates fruit, which they didn't know that at the time of this review's release. Not review, but this theory's release. That was partially proven. He didn't gain his dream of invisibility through a devil fruit. He gained it through his raid suit, and it's not technically not invisibility as Law explained it. It's actually, like I said, the made-up word chameleonization, where a person or thing or object can blend in with its surroundings in the same way that a chameleon or certain frogs can do. Okay, now moving on. I prefer the second possibility. Sanji will get a weapon, which they said is a metal boot, since he needs an armor to cover his leg. Sanji don't need an armor to cover his leg. He has armament hockey. Granted, if he was using it in his fight against Virgo, it has already proven to not be as strong as Luffy and Zoro's, because he broke his leg in this fight against Virgo. Now, granted, Virgo was freakishly strong, and Sanji probably should not have been fighting him in the first place. That probably should have been the fight for Luffy or Zoro. But he had to protect Tashigi, so... And then, after Virgo, he went and fought Doflamingo. Again, protecting his friends. I mean, Tashigi wasn't a friend. Tashigi and Smokey are frenemies of the Straw Hats. It's practically been that way since Alabasta, kind of. It was more the enemy part of frenemy, but it's the friendship part. The friend part of frenemy has slowly grown over the years, or in One Piece world, over the 2 years, that they're kind of conflicted about whether to catch them or not, so they always end up choosing not to capture them. They did it in Alabasta, they chose not to capture them this time because that time, even though they were all worn out and weak and laying in the middle of the road sleeping. And then, again, in Punk Hazard, granted, that was might have been more of a we owe you we owe you for saving our lives, so we're going to let you go this once. Again, actually, the Alabasta incident happened twice in Alabasta, because when Luffy ordered Zoro to save Smoker after Sanji got them out of the cage in Crocodile's hidden lair under his casino, Smoker let them go, and he said, I'm going to let you go just this once, so get out of here. And then he ended up letting them, Tashigi ended up letting them go after the battle, because they saved the country, saved Alabasta, and she didn't feel right capturing them after that. And then, again, in Punk Hazard, he has armament hockey. Granted, yes, it's not as strong as Zoro's and Luffy's, but he still has it, and if he trains with it enough, he wouldn't need armor to cover his legs, because he'd already have it. Now, we never actually get to see him use it, because his suit's black, his shoes are black, and armament hockey typically turns the thing that you're fusing your armament hockey with black. So, we never actually know when or if Sanji is using it. But we do know that Luffy himself stated that he has it. And why does the lighting keep fluctuating? That makes no sense. So, anyway, to continue on with the theory. Okay, Sanji will get a weapon, which is a metal boot, since he needs an armor to cover his leg. Or shoes to enhance his kicking abilities. And similar to anybody who gets this reference, sorry, but I don't. Similar to Detective Conan's shoes. Although I feel like I should get this reference. Copy. New tab. Nope, don't get it. Okay. Go away. Yeah, I don't think I'm getting to the next... Okay, you know what? I'm giving 2 birthday videos for Sanji. Because the other theory I really want to talk about, I should have done... I didn't think this one was going to take that long since, I mean... The back of this paper, the front of this paper, and I don't know why I didn't think to flip this over, but the front of this paper. So, a page and a half. And my writing's a bit big, so it's really less than a page and a half if it's typed out. Maybe a page, sorry, 2 pages and a half, less than that if it's typed out, so maybe a page and a half or even less than that. But anyway, or maybe he will lose one of his legs. And Frankie will give Sanji a prosthetic robotic leg. They put in parentheses, super awesome. Frankie would think that would be super awesome. Sanji probably wouldn't. I know I don't. Robin probably wouldn't. I mean, Nami wouldn't. We all know how they were to the General Frankie. I know Oda typically depicts the girls as not being into robots. They then go on saying, in fact, in earlier concepts of in earlier designs of the Straw Hats characters, we did have someone who was supposed to have a prosthetic robotic leg. However, they neglected to mention that said person also had a prosthetic robotic arm. And that person would be Nami. A while ago, he had released pictures of hers and Sanji's original designs before he actually decided on the designs that he went with for the pre-2 years time skip. So Nami was, in fact, supposed to have a prosthetic robotic arm. And maybe not a leg, but definitely a foot. Now, back to Sanji. It would also be funny when Sanji sees Zeph again, and he had lost a leg and Frankie made him a prosthetic one. Zeph's reaction, which they're saying it, I personally don't think Sanji would ever especially now that he's got his raid suit. He didn't have the raid suit during this year, so I have to keep that in mind, but so before he got his raid suit, it very easily could have eventually happened. I mean, he was always fighting, he fought Zoro all the time. Who's to say Zoro wouldn't actually accidentally slip up and, no, I doubt that would happen. That would probably make for a funny story, though. I'll go on with that in a second here. Here's what they say Zeph would do. Zeph would laugh and tell Sanji, "So you follow my style, huh?" Since we know Zeph actually does have a prosthetic leg. Zeph would then, this is my adding to that, Zeph could then make a joke about anime only fans. If you're watching this, you know the anime version of what happened. He cut it off because it got stuck in the wreckage. The fans of the manga know that Zeph actually cut it off to eat it because he gave all the food that was there to Sanji. And because in reality, they were on that rock for at least 2 months. I don't remember. I've counted it like a billion times, but I can never remember exactly how many it is. Not to mention the manga itself, I think actually said, the manga itself actually said how many it was. Conveniently had the manga pulled up right here so I can maybe find it. If they were nice enough to actually put the titles with the chapter number. 85 days. Okay, yep. Anyway, it would kind of make for a funny story if Sanji were to lose a leg. If Zeph would be like, "So, what happened to you? Get stuck on a rock again?" Sanji would be like, "No, I got in a fight with Zoro. He kind of accidentally used the front of the blade." Because I'm sure Zoro doesn't actually use the front of the blade the sharp side of the blade when when him and Sanji get into fights. If he does, it's 100. We already know Zoro, Sanji, Luffy are not normal at all. None of the Straw Hats are really normal, but Sanji, Zoro, and Luffy are the worst of the 9. Or if we're counting Jinbei, yeah, it's 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 8, 9. Yeah, 10. So we already know that the crew itself, all of the crew members are not what you would call normal, but Zoro, Luffy, and Sanji are the worst out of the 10. And yes, I'm counting Jinbei because Luffy has already established that he is Jinbei's captain now, so Jinbei is in fact a member of the crew. Whether people want to consider him in that until he gets there or not, whether or not people are going to want to consider him a member of the crew until he's actually there or not is entirely up to you, but I say he is a member. And Luffy has basically stated that he's worried about him since he's not on Wano yet. He didn't use those words, but that's basically what he was saying. So even if Zoro doesn't use the back of the blade when getting into his brotherly fights with Sanji, I don't think he'd actually be able to cut off Sanji's leg, because Sanji's always blacking swords with his leg. Not to mention, Sanji can kick through 20 billion walls in Alabasta. Okay, 20 billion's an overstatement, but kick through 20 billion walls in Alabasta without injuring his foot, kick through a rock, kick through, he's broken swords before. That is the end of their the main theory, but they added a little extra at the end about Sanji and a member of the Blackbeard Pirates, Sanjuan Wolf. Anyway, it says, lastly, since we are talking about Sanji, I want to point out that the Straw Hats might not need to have a giant in their crew to fight Sanjuan Wolf. Of course not. Luffy's fought a giant before. Luffy fought Dory before. Granted, Dory was injured. It was after he drank the bomb and Dory accused Luffy and the other Straw Hats of bombing the alcohol. So Luffy's fought a giant before. Yes, the giant was injured. He fought Big Mom before. Big Mom's not necessarily a giant. She's shorter than a giant, but she's still pretty giant. They then say, because they have Sanji. Oda himself has foreshadowed that Sanji will fight Sanjuan Wolf 3 times. They got 3 points for this. Their first 4 letters of their names are the same. But what they fail to realize is the Romanized spelling of Sanjuan Wolf's name is Sanfan. Sanfan Urufu. Uruf. Official English name is Sanjuan Wolf. But just because that's the official English name does not necessarily mean it's canon, because it's the Japanese version is what's canon. Anything changed in the English version isn't necessarily canon. I mean, of course, they could have gotten Oda's permission to change it from Fan to Juan, which thus could make it canon, but not necessarily. Anyway, the first 4 letters of their names are the same, so Sanj. Whereas the Romanized version of Sanjuan's name is the first 4 letters are Sanf. Point number 2. Sanji has the experience of fighting a super huge giant, which is Watatsumi. And 3, somehow this is involved. They have the same birthday. Which, okay, we're also today of currently February 25th, which by the time you watch this, it will be March 2nd. which is when I'm planning on uploading this. But apparently the fact that they have this birthday on the same day foreshadows that Sanji's going to be fighting him 3 times. I mean, I'm not against Sanji fighting the guy, but just because they share the same birthday does not necessarily mean that you're going to fight the guy 3 times. Specifically 3 times, or at all. But eventually they are going to fight that Blackbeard, we all know that, so it very well could be Sanjuan Wolf who Sanji fights. So anyway, yeah, I'm gonna basically do a part 1 and 2 to this. I didn't want to, but I'm at 2 hours, and I'm at 3 hours almost, 2 hours and 40 minutes, so we are not getting to the other theory today. We will, even though it's 1 page long versus 1 page long of my personal discussion versus the 2.5 pages long of this one's discussion. I guess I should have done the other one first, but I really wanted to save that one for last, so we're going to do it that way. Yeah, I'll hopefully have this one edited and ready to go up by the 2nd, and hopefully get this part 2 up and edited and ready to go by the 2nd. But for now, I'm Last Otaku, and this is your anime news. Sayonara.